Hey guys, what's up? Crafty Sheep here back with another horror game. This is called Funeral. I've never seen it played, I've never played it before, so let's get straight into it. You are in this bleak funeral home amidst a few other people. Do you know them? They look familiar, but you're not sure if you've ever seen them before. It's maddening, this sense of familiarity. For some reason, you are certain that you ought to be knowing who they are, yet why can't you remember their names? Funeral service appears to not have started yet. The mourners stand before the casket, nameless and lost in thought. And who are they mourning? Why are you even here? Coffin is sleek, of dark ebony. Coffin is of a poor man. Picture atop it, that face. Is that your picture? A sense of alarm and disorientation grips you. What is happening? How could your photo be atop the coffin? A knowledge rises, like the rising of some dark tide, a horrific memory. Then it recedes before you can finally identify it. You turn to the mourners, just a handful of people really, about 4 or 5, hanging back in the shadows. Only 3 people are in the front row. Clearly the dead man wasn't very popular. You approach the 3 nearest to the coffin. They look at you unseeingly, as if they're looking past you. A woman in her 50s bearing an air of faint sorrow, her eyes are distant, testament of a lifetime of grief. Again, there's a sense of aching familiarity, as you're certain that you know her, but that knowledge is locked away somehow, and you're unable to get to it. Beside her, a young man in his 30s, a guarded expression and an air of restlessness, as if he would much rather be elsewhere. Sight of him troubles you, but you're not sure why. Beside him is a pretty young girl in her 20s. Her expression is subdued, thoughtful. Sight of her inexplicably strikes you like a blow. It takes some effort for you to regain your composure. Just as you approach them, a strange thing happens. You're not sure what just happened. The world seemed to fade away for an instant. Now you find yourself standing before the woman. She does not acknowledge your presence. But here's an incredible thing. She does not open her mouth, but you can hear her thoughts as if she were speaking. What dark magic is this? It was so sudden, but now that I think about it, it's not so surprising. All these years he talked about his own death, and now it came about in a way none of us expected. How did he die? It was terrible. He'd always been scared of a violent death, but at least it was quick. Although she does not directly respond to your question, her thoughts shift to the direction of your prompt. He'd always been terrified of suffering, of having some kind of nearly fatal accident and then living with pain. Or living as a vegetable. He was always afraid of that, of ending up a vegetable and then having to physically rely on someone just to be alive. I'm so glad that he went abruptly. It was instant death. Are you okay? The grief comes and goes. I still can't believe he's gone, even after all that passed between us. You sense her thoughts shifting to the young man and woman beside her. I'm more worried about them. They've had to put up with a lot. Matthew's already growing distant. He was warm for a while when we first arrived, almost like his old self. Now he's gone back into his brooding shell, like father, like son. At least Priya is thawing a little. Her thoughts fade away for an instant. It's incredible how one incident can destroy everything, tear a family apart, and keep us apart. All those years ago, and it still haunts us. What incident? What happened? I realize now I've been avoiding thinking about that for a long time. Maybe that's how you survive. You clamp down on the hurtful memories, lock them away in a box, and never open it, and never look in. Because if you do, they'll chafe at you until you break. God knows it's nearly destroyed the kids. How Matthew adored his father, worshipped him really, and Priya was his princess. All of that an illusion so rudely torn away. Maybe now that he's gone, it's time to open that box and look at the terrible stuff in there. Maybe I should no longer run away from it. Her words evoke a sense of bitter agony. You want to reach out and comfort her, but you hesitate. Wouldn't that be inappropriate? There's that maddening feeling of familiarity again, an ache that seems to tell you that you know this woman, and another emotion threading through the sorrow, shame. I don't mean to pry, but what happened? Even as you ask the question, deep dread fills you. Maybe you don't want to know the answer. Maybe you should not even ask it. Woman sighs deeply, and you sense grief bubbling up inside, a wellspring of it so powerful that for a moment you fear you'll be drowned in it. Before you can catch her thoughts, you find yourself standing before the young man. His hands are tucked into his pockets as he stares at the casket. He seems oblivious to the others around him. How are you holding up? He looks up, startled, looks around. He does not look directly at you. He does not acknowledge your presence. For some reason, this does not offend. In fact, weirdly, for reasons you cannot understand, it seems the most natural thing in the world. As before, you hear his thoughts, as if in response to your own question. I could have sworn I heard something. I must have been hallucinating. I guess that's not what sleeping for 2 days does to you. As soon as this is over, I'll head back to the room, pop a couple V's, and get knocked out. Though I'm not sure if I can with all these thoughts. Part of me is guilty, thinking I should be grieving over him. He was my father, after all. And then another part of me, the larger part, doesn't care at all. Do I really feel anything? Any loss? It's strange, I feel nothing. Such an awful way to feel about your father's death. But is it really? When was the last time I spoke to him? Maybe 4 years now. I'm not angry. I think the years have softened the anger. I'm just apathetic, really. When I got the call, it was almost like Ma was telling me about someone else's death, a stranger's. How's your mother holding up? Mom's barely holding on, but she's not going to show us that, as usual. It's amazing how she can grieve over him at all, that she still won't say a bad thing about him after all he's done. Part of the problem is how much she worries about us. That's how it's always been. That's part of the problem. That's why she hid the truth from us for so long, or so she thinks. I think she was mostly just hiding the truth about him from herself. You sense anger, even frustration in his thoughts. His mother, shouldn't he be beside her, comfort her? But there seems to be some kind of distance between them, an abyss that is impossible to cross. Seems to pick up on your thoughts. Part of me does wish I would go to her, but where do we start? It's too far gone, and it's all because of him. What happened? What did your father do? A buzzing fills the world, and the next thoughts are drowned in it. The world is fading away, a memory rising. You know this place. You have been here, you. Horrific image, a memory. Now you're standing before the girl. She's deeply sad within. A measure of relief fills you. At least one of them is grieving the man in the casket. Yet looking at her fills you with unexpected and surprising sorrow. You want to reach out to her, hold her, tell her that it will be okay, but you know you can't do it. You don't even know her. Don't you? Don't you know her? Are you sure? Why does she invoke such grief in you? You want to ask her if she loved the man in the casket, but that would be a terrible thing to ask at a funeral. But it's a good question. Did she? Why are you here, and who are these people? And why does your not knowing the answers to these questions not bother you? In fact, now you feel very calm. Except for the ebbing and flowing undertides of sorrow, you are mostly at peace. I'm so sorry. She sniffles and does not acknowledge your words. Should have struck you as rude, but it doesn't. Can't believe he's gone. I can't believe it. And so suddenly and in such a terrible way. At least he didn't suffer. Mom saw the body and she said his face, what was left of it, looked so peaceful, almost like he was sleeping. It's the strangest thing. I never thought I'd feel as terrible, and now look at me. I guess it goes to show, when he was alive, we barely talked, except for those occasions I called. I think I'd hardened my heart to him. Maybe that's what happened. I put up a wall, and now that he's dead... It does happen sometimes. She does not respond and stays lost in thought. What exactly did your father do? To think that it all goes back to that one moment, everything would have been different if only Dad hadn't. A burning sensation fills you, an urgency. It's imperative for you to find out what happened to this family, what has broken them apart. Your very soul seems to depend on it. You find the woman, their mother, standing slumped. She stares off into the distance. I need to know what happened. She looks right through you. Her gaze is haunted. He'd been at it for years. I never knew. That's a lie, isn't it? I knew. Of course I knew. I knew, yet I didn't allow myself to know. I kept it a closed secret because my biggest fear was the children would find out. I didn't want them to know what kind of man he was, and so I stayed quiet. Through all those nights when he was away on his supposed business trips, late at work meetings, told the kids that their father was a busy man. And that's how it was, wasn't it? Dad's away, he's busy earning a living, busy, always busy. I saw him about once a week during school days, and most weekends he wasn't there. I guess it was normal for most rich kids. You get used to it. You went to a school where everybody's dad was some big shot away most of the time. And we bought it, and that's the awful part. We bought it hook, line, and sinker. Dad's going to miss out on PTA again. They want to see him. Your dad's busy, honey. He's a busy man. Until Princess, that's what he used to call me, Princess. I used to wait to see him, to get the gifts, the hugs. I would wait to smell his cologne. I used to wait for that. I loved him, we all did. And when it happened, it all blew up in his face. It had to happen. He'd been sleeping with too many women, you see, mainly by coercion, it appeared. The big CEO of a multinational corporation. It was bound to go wrong. You can't hide the truth forever. That horrid woman, Laura, that awful phone call, she spilled it out. And then the other woman came forward at his workplace. That whole #MeToo movement thing. Harassment. I tried even then to hide it, but what boy has to live with something like that? Going to school, 8th grade, your dad's name in every paper, #MeToo bitches, they crucified me. Even those teachers, they screwed with me in front of the whole class. Son of a rapist, molester junior, the names kept coming. I think that's when Matthew began shutting us out, and all the stories started coming together. What Dad was really up to. All those business trips, what they actually were, and Ma tried to protect them from it till the very end. She never told us the truth. He was a liar, that's what he was. 6 months. That's how long it took to lose everything. After he lost his job, the house, the fancy perks, kids had to leave the private schools, and then after they got divorced, it was over for us. Matthew couldn't wait to leave home when he finished college, and I don't blame him. He never looked back once. He never forgave them, either of them. Do you forgive her? It wasn't Ma's fault, but we were just kids, and she didn't know how to deal with the fallout. The relatives, the press, she shut us out too. Do you forgive him? I want to forgive, but he ruined our lives. All for lies, for something so cheap. For sex. You stand before her and you feel a terrible sense of shame. And of course you know why. You knew from the beginning. You know who's in there. The dead body that lies within was once yours. They weep, they stand apart, they are broken. And you broke them. That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad at all. I like that. It was a good narrative. But that was Funeral, so if you liked it, please leave a thumbs up. It lets me know which series I should keep and which series I should potentially can. And if you have any other horror games you want me to play, leave it in the comments down below, and I will get to them. But without further ado, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. You stay tuned and stay crafty. Until next time, bye!